Last night, Ja Wick made his season's debut for the Memphis Grizzlies against the New Orleans Pelicans and dropped 34 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds to go along with the game winner at the buzzer. A victory in his return is great. However, the Memphis Grizzlies are currently 7-19 and are tied with the Portland Trail Blazers for the 14th seed out west. Does Ja Morant's return change this season? Did he return too late and they're going to miss the playoffs? We're going to discuss all of that and more in today's video. I just want to say thanks so much for the support on the channel recently, guys. Be sure to hit that subscriber button if you're new, because we are uploading every single day for the month of December. Without further ado, let's jump right into this video. First and foremost, let's talk about the issues with the team before Ja Morant's return. The first glaring issue I see is the loss of Tyus Jones. Now, many of you may think, if you weren't an avid viewer of the Grizzlies last season, following the absence of Ja Morant, you would know a big thing we hear this season is, or before the season rather, is that the Grizzlies are going to be fine. You know, they were great with Ja Morant last season. They were great without Ja Morant. They've proved they can win games without Ja Morant. However, a big factor in this was the depth and the production that Tyus Jones gave this team. It was not only important that he could go for 15 to 20 points on any given night when he was the starting guard, but his assist to turnover ratio was nearly perfect, and honestly to the likes and the caliber of Tyrese Halliburton with less usage. Tyus Jones is an incredibly smart point guard, and he's doing pretty alright things in Washington, but it's obviously not going to be talked about because, well, it's Washington. Tyus is just one of those smart point guards who always thinks before he moves, and he's always making the right reads. He even looked pretty solid in the short-lived playoff run that they had last season. Following the loss of Tyus Jones, they acquired new guards such as Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose, who bring us to our next point, the injury woes. This team has missed a lot of time, especially at the guard position. Marcus Smart has missed more than 10 games, Luke Kennard has missed games, Derrick Rose has missed a lot of games. And obviously these are important pieces to just get the ball moving in transition, because of the fact that without these four guards, if you include Ja Morant, a lot of the ball handling responsibility and defensive schemes are targeted towards who? Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane has been having a really solid season. He's averaging around 25, 5, and 5. However, Desmond is not the number one option, and I think we can all agree on that. And that's not saying he's bad. That's not saying that he's not, all-star level of a player. However, he just isn't the number one guy, and it's clear that the scheme and the system isn't made up for him to be the number one guy. Which brings me to my next point, that Taylor Jenkins is held back due to the loss of his star player. I mentioned this when I talked about the Donovan Mitchell problem in Cleveland. I'm sure you guys, most of you have probably seen that video. It did really well when it came out, which I appreciate for your guys' support. However, I even referenced the Memphis Grizzlies and said, look, what is Taylor Jenkins supposed to do? He's a rock in a hard place, because you can't give the keys to Jaren or Bane, because you give him the keys, they get too comfortable, and then 25 games later, Ja Morant comes back, and now everyone has to readjust to how they're playing. Obviously, Ja Morant wasn't allowed to play in these games, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't allowed to be around the team during this time. Even with Ja out, there's been such a lack of aggression from Jaren Jackson and the whole team as a total on the glass. The leading rebounder is Bismack Biyombo off the bench with 6 rebounds. 6. Jaren Jackson is playing 35 minutes a night and is averaging less than 6 rebounds a game. That deserves a moment of silence, guys. So these are the glaring issues I see with the team prior to Ja Morant's turn. And now you may be asking, what does a Ja Morant turn mean? It definitely means less pressure on Bane and Jackson. Desmond Bane had last season a ton of open shots. He actually led the league in three-point percentage for pull-up jumpers that were open, and open is, within 4 to 5 feet of the next player. And that was largely due to the fact that Ja Morant is so electric that he barrels into the lane and he does a bunch of crazy moves or a hop step, and then he's able to be smart enough to facilitate and move the ball. So that's how this is going to help Bane, and then it's going to help Jackson a lot, because Jaren is going to be more involved in pick and rolls like we've seen in the past, and it's going to allow Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson to kind of not focus all their qualms on offense, but be the great defensive players that they have shown in the past that they can be. Another thing I'm really looking forward to, and we kind of saw a sneak peek of it in this Pelicans game, is the transition efficient scoring and the scoring sets in the half court. Just Ja Morant being back obviously gives Taylor Jenkins a ton, and I mean a ton of, opportunity to just kind of facilitate his offense through schemes and make sure that they're out and running through one of the speediest point guards in the NBA and Ja Morant. Now, all of this begs the question, can they make the playoffs? So to me, it's a coin flip. The first thought in my head is, yeah, they can make the playoffs. They're very talented. They've been a top 3 seed the last couple seasons. Look at the Celtics in 2021. I believe they were anywhere from the 8 to 11 seed at the deadline, and then they ended up going from the 8 or 11 seed to the 2 seed, and they made the NBA Finals. Obviously, they lost, but the second half of the season is a great reset point. And what's beautiful about the NBA is they don't even have to make the playoffs. They just have to make the play-in. I mean, the Lakers made the Western Conference Finals last season, and they were the 7 seed starting in the play-in, and they had to go through the Timberwolves, and they almost actually lost that game, if you guys remember, but they didn't. And then they went on to beat Memphis, and they went on to beat the Warriors, and then they got smoked in the Western Conference Finals. But we're talking about making the playoffs, not the finals. So yes, if they can string together, 30 and 15 wins, you know what I mean? 30 wins, 15 losses in the second half of the season or the rest of the season, I think it's very possible that they can make the playoffs. The other half of me says, they're 7 and 19, the ship is too sunk to revive. It's very possible when you get into a loser's mindset that, you don't want stuff to change and you just kind of want to let things marinate and be the same, and it's hard to pick your head up when it's hung so low. But maybe Ja Morant's return sparks energy and a flair into this Memphis Grizzlies team. The most interesting thing for me is if Marcus Smart comes back, what is the level of this team defensively with Ja, Jaren, Bane, and Marcus Smart? Because if the ceiling for this team is what it looks like it can be, or the reality of this team is what it looks like it can be, then obviously they can be a top 5, top 10 defensive team in the NBA, and that in return will result to them at least making the play-in out west. I mean, if you look at who's the 7 to 10 seed right now, it's the Lakers, the Rockets, the Suns, the Warriors. They can, easily sneak their way into taking the spot of almost any of those teams. It's really up for grabs, especially, if they can put together a great win like they did against the Pelicans. The only teams that I think are kind of locked to make the playoffs are the Wolves, the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Kings, and the Mavericks. And then I'll throw the Clippers in there as well. But 7 through 10, it's anyone's game. And when it's the play-in, it's funny enough, it's really anybody's, opportunity. The Grizzlies, last thing I want to say, they're 1 and 11 at home. If they want to make the playoffs, that's got to change. But what do you guys think? Is it too late for the Grizzlies? Can they bounce things back? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, I appreciate your guys' support as always. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and blessed. Peace.